that was heavy. I've been so inspired by some of the art here at the Butler Institute of American Art that I've collected some art supplies. I'll bet you're wondering why it was so heavy. You probably think I've collected paints and clays and other materials, but for the kind of art I'm trying, you don't need those kind of materials. Here, take a look. Surprised you, didn't I? To you, it may look like a box of junk, but it's amazing the wonderful art that can be created by using it. Rafael Ferrer, the artist who created this sculpture, is originally from Puerto Rico. This piece, Ben Duval Barriqua, can be called an environmental work. He uses unconventional materials and puts them into modern form, although it still looks primitive, doesn't it? Ferrer is a bit of a rebel. He started out painting and began to add objects to the paintings, and later he created sculptures like this with found objects. Mark Soppeland of Akron, Ohio, is an artist whose materials are more likely to be found in a flea market or garage sale than in an art supply store. Mark's not afraid to experiment to find just the right bit or piece that works for him, and when he does, it's almost as if a light bulb goes on. And speaking of light, that's something else that's very important to Mark's creations. In fact, you really have to turn on his art.
The work I've been involved with most recently, at least for the last decade or so, has been lamp making, work that's involved with light. We're in the workshop now. It's been said that I'm the man who can't stop making things. A big part of my work is continually being out and about looking for things that can be transformed into interesting objects. When I first saw this, I thought maybe it's some sort of elephant, and these flexible conduit pieces could be the tusks, and maybe these are the ears. You know, everything in here has potential. Like, wow, you know, what a great nose. These nice sort of puffy cheeks, some eyes. Maybe we can do something with this head. Yeah, let's take this one back to the studio and see what we can do with this. Yeah, this is really a rather remarkable shape. Just one of the questions would be, you know, where we're going to put the lamp, what we've got going on inside of this. There's something rather nice about him just sitting down here, almost like he's up to his nose, as it were, in something. Okay. Really rather interesting face. Almost reminds me of some of the Daumier caricatures from the late 18th, early 19th century. There are people who plan and people who just jump in and make things. We might want to start thinking about what kind of face we're going to make out of this person or this little teapot. I'm already thinking of him as having a personality. We're just waiting for itself to be completely revealed. We are going to have to decide whether this will stay on and become part of the piece or whether there's going to be some complete transformation of the top of this. But right now I think we've got something really rather interesting underway. And we'll try and keep all those parts together. I think we're going to want him back. And then we'll proceed with drilling out the back. Randomly build a pattern into the back that the light can get out of. One of the things that I try to do with this work is maybe think about asymmetry. Try to make things a little less expected. It's possible to set things up where they're absolutely identical, but something that might make it more interesting would be to have it set up so that things are not identical, so things are clearly different from one side to the other. And so what I'm hoping to find are perhaps pieces, parts. Oh, that's kind of fun. I can then start taking some sheet aluminum and begin trying some experiments. Like, for example, maybe we'll try an experiment with some hair And we'll just cut out something that seems to perhaps be within the scale that we're looking for. And we can start laying this out, seeing how this might change the piece. That's actually pretty nice for a crown. It might be pretty nice for hair. This piece is going to take a while to resolve. We still have lots of decisions to make, lots of crafting to do, lots of drilling. Well, our little coffee pot guy has developed quite a bit. I was able to make several of the decisions move forward that we'd already talked about. I like the asymmetrical eyes. Those simply got screwed on by drilling. We had our holes drilled out and used some of these nice little round bolts to go ahead and stick them on with the round nuts that go on them. We went ahead, we took our shears, and we not only cut teeth for him, which got riveted on, we also have a nice trim piece which separates these nice serrations. In fact, we even cut a second piece of aluminum, actually took it, cut serrations on both sides, then folded it over to fill out his hair or his crown a bit, make it a little bit more eccentric. Never quite expected him to turn out this way, and I oftentimes believe that the best art goes that way, that oftentimes if you allow yourself to use your imagination, to make changes, to take the unexpected path with pieces, art will turn out better than you might if you stick with some straight, vision all the way through. As an artist, I'm concerned with making work that addresses multiple issues. In part, I'm concerned with being a craftsman, exploring new tools and materials. As a designer, I'm trying to make things that have beautiful shape, beautiful form, and of course, as a conceptualist, trying to come up with new ideas that talk about contemporary culture as well as historical issues. My best advice to young artists is find those things that you're most excited about and address those with your work.
The lamps of Mark Soppeland inspired Reed Middle School students to go scrounging for art materials. They had to use their imaginations to see the possibilities in junk.
What we're going to do today, class, is start a three-dimensional papier-mâché mask, and everyone has a plastic mold in front of them. We're going to put about 4 or 5 layers of the papier-mâché onto these masks, and we're going to call this an armature. If you take a single sheet of newspaper like this and hold it like you get it out of the mailbox, and you tear straight down, you'll have almost perfect strips of paper, okay? As opposed to tearing it like this, when you tear across the grain, it just kind of rips in all different directions. The smaller your pieces, the easier it will be to get around the corners, like around the nose, around the eye sockets. Dip your newspaper into your papier-mâché, and you're going to wring it off at least 2 or 3 times to get all of the extra papier-mâché off. And you're going to start to cover your entire mask, okay? Start maybe at the top and work your way down to the bottom. And make sure, if you're working on a plastic mask, that you go all the way to your edge with the papier-mâché. If you don't, what will happen when you pull your mask off of the armature, the edges will kind of curl up and your mask will look kind of like it got ran over. So you want to keep your papier-mâché all the way out to your edges and get it as smooth as you can. Flatten out any wrinkles that you have, so it'll make it that much easier when you put your next layer over top of it. Just kind of place your papier-mâché pieces in a random pattern, and your mask will be a little bit stronger. It won't have any seams where it can break apart real easy. You try to jot down some of your ideas in a picture form of some of the ideas that you might think about working on. If there's something you want to add, like protruding out of your mask, sticking out of, if you cut kind of like a slot into your mask and make a tab out of whatever you want to stick into your mask, It's kind of like those construction books or those workbooks that you might have when you were a little kid, where you make the finger puppets and you have to stick tab A into slot B. So if you cut yourself a little tab and very carefully take the scissors and poke it through your mask, kind of work it back and forth, you can then insert your tab into your slot. Now take your newspaper and form it right around your wire. Leave your two ends sticking out. Tape it up nice and tight, and you can go ahead and fasten it right to your mask. Make sure that you attach everything very well with your masking tape. After everything is attached, we're going to put one more layer of papier-mâché over everything to kind of hold it together. Everything up here is for you to use. Now you kind of just put it over the mask, and you can be kind of rough with this foil. It doesn't rip that easy. And start to form it over all of your features, and it kind of just stays in place. And then maybe put a couple dabs of the hot glue. Now we can even do your hat in a different color, or your.
How do you make it tight? So it's tight.
Just keep forming it. Just keep pinching into all the areas underneath your eyes and your nose. Kind of pinch it around the back. And you could even start to rub it a little bit. And you can see it even adds a nice texture, almost like alligator skin. And when the light hits it, it's going to reflect off in a lot of different ways.
Then I'm going to take these eyes off.
It may be tempting to call this junk sculpture, but I'm sure you see there's a lot more to it than that. After seeing what can be made out of an old discarded teapot, it's possible to look at junk in an entirely different way. I mean, if something old and bent can be turned into something beautiful, isn't it possible that art is all around us? We just have to find it. In a way, this kind of sculpture is sort of artistic recycling.
Teaching materials for sharing art are available on the web at wneo.org/sharingart. Funding for this series was provided by the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation and Northeastern Ohio Education Association. NEOEA's members include elementary and secondary teachers, university professors, and support professionals, proudly serving students attending the public schools and colleges of Northeastern Ohio.